Hey folks, so for this demonstration I just wanted to show you a few of the tools that you'll be using to create your actual letter forms. Now when you get started, if you want to use a grid, you can see that by going up to the View menu and down to Show Grid, and this is what it'll give you. I believe you can customize how big that grid is in Preferences. Um, but if you don't want that, you can actually create your own guides, which sometimes is more helpful, but whatever you prefer. To create your own guides, you'll need to have the rulers visible. So go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers. And then to create your guide, you just bring your cursor up into the ruler, drag down, and that'll give you a cap line, baseline, and then maybe an X height if you want to do that. So, and then you can also drag them over for widths. You know, you're going to have different widths for different letters, but so you probably have a lot of guides in this document, but feel that you can move them around and edit them and delete them as you need to. To move a guide around, if they're not locked, you can just click on it and drag it. If you want to delete it while it's highlighted blue, just hit delete. If you want to lock your guides, I think you can do that under the Guides menu. Lock or unlock your guides right there. So whenever we get started, if you have if you're creating your letter forms from scratch, you should have some sketches or something that you're basing your work on. But whenever you do that, you can just start building with shapes. So let's say I want to make a lowercase b. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and you can bring it up to your guides afterwards, or you can start with your guides, however you want to do that. It will snap to it if you have snap to guide selected in the View menu. If you have snap to point, snap to grid, all that kind of stuff. So I will just draw a rectangle with the rectangle tool. And this transform align box is automatically going to open up. I'm going to put that to the side because that's what I've used in the past, but there's a new feature called the Shape Builder tool that's really useful, and it's actually a little quicker and easier to use. So whenever I get this shape, you see these little circles. These are actually going to allow you to adjust the, it's called live corners. It's going to allow you to adjust the how curved those corners are. By default, they're going to be pointy, but we can adjust that. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute. To get the shape, the color that you want, you just get the selection tool, click on it, and then using your color guide, if it looks like this, you can go to Show Options, so you can get your sliders, and then click on Black. And you want a black fill. You don't want any stroke. So by default, I think it gives you a white shape with the black stroke. That's fine for when you're just starting out, but for the majority of your working, you're going to want a black fill with no stroke like this. All right, so here's my first shape. And if I want to curve the corners, I click on it. And if by default, if I click on one of these and drag in, you're going to see it's going to round all four corners at the same time. All right, and if that's what I want, that's fine. I'm going to Command Z or Control Z. If you just want to do one corner at a time, you can click on the direct selection tool, the white arrow, and you'll see these little blue squares at the corners of each, and that means when they're all filled in, that means the entire thing is selected. So if I drag one of these live corner things, it's still going to do all four of them. However, if I just click on one corner so that this one's filled in and all the other four corners are hollow in the middle or white in the middle, then it's just going to allow me to do one corner at a time. So if I want it to look like that, I can do that. You can also type in specific dimensions up here if you want to do that. Here's your corner weight radius. If you click on this, it's going to give you some options on whether you want a rounded corner, inverted round, or chamfered or chamfered, whatever that is. And then there's rounding options as well. You can also access that just by double clicking on the live corners icon. It'll pop up. All right, so you can, just to show you what that looks like, it could look like that, it could look like that. For this, I'm just going to keep the rounded corner. Click OK. And then maybe I'll do the same thing down to this one. So I'll click on that point on the corner and then drag this up so I get a curved shape looking like that. All right, now I want to add the other part of my B. So in this case, I'm going to go grab the ellipse tool and hold down Shift so it creates a perfect circle, like that. And then, now what I just want half of this circle. So what I could do is using the Pathfinder tool. I could do that, but it's much easier using the Shape Builder tool. So now I'm going to overlap it. I'm going to create a white rectangle. So get my fill, select white, and whoops, I had that selected. I want to keep that black, so I'll deselect it. Now I'll grab a rectangle tool and choose white, and I'm just going to drag a white rectangle over half of this circle. All right, so that looks like it's what I want, but I actually have two shapes here. If I select both of them, however, you can use the Shape Builder tool in a couple different ways. I posted a video that talks about it more in depth. I'm going to show you just for the purposes of this specific project. I'm going to click on the Shape Builder tool, and you can see it highlights certain things. Just by clicking on them and dragging over them, it's going to merge these together. However, if I want to delete these areas, I hold down Option or Alt, and then drag over the areas that I want to delete. And just like that, it's deleted, and now I have the shape that I want. All right, so that's a kind of an interesting letter form by itself. It's a little tall, so I can make this a little bigger. If I wanted to add a negative space, it'd be the same kind of thing, where maybe I just duplicate this, copy and paste it, shrink it down a little bit, put it right here, and try and keep a consistent stroke width, like that, and then make this white. All right, now this looks right, but I actually still have two shapes here, so I need to clean it up by selecting these first, then clicking on the Shape Builder tool, holding down Option, and clicking on that, and it goes away. So now this is the exact shape I want. I put this right here, and there's my B. All right, if I wanted it to go right up against it, I could, but I kind of like it like that. Now, whenever, this is still two separate shapes, so whenever I get it exactly the way I want it, the last step is to kind of to merge these so each letter is one shape. So I can select both of these, grab the Shape Builder tool, drag over both of them, and now it's a compound shape. So when I click on it, well, it should be. I guess it doesn't work that way. If that doesn't work, if it doesn't create, if they're overlapping, it will create a compound shape. If I select both of these and do it this way, all of a sudden it becomes one shape, and that creates another problem that you have to deal with. If you just want to leave, if you want to leave them separate like this, what you can do is just group them together. So I would select both of these, and you can either go to Object, Group, and it'll become something that you can move and resize as one element. You can also make it a compound shape, compound path, make, and that way, basically the same thing, different means to the same end. So there's one letter form. All right, and that's how you use the live corners and the Shape Builder to sort of build your letter forms. Now, if you have done most of the work by hand, if you prefer to draw your letter forms, which is fine, then you'll scan it in and import it into Illustrator, and this is what you'll have to start with. And then it's as simple as just tracing those shapes. Well, I say as simple, but it's actually takes some time. If you have regular shapes, you can use the shape tools like we did before. But for something like this, it's actually going to be easier to use the pen tool. So the pen tool is up here, and it allows you to just create lines, straight and curved lines. And while you're working, this is one instance when I would say you want to have no fill and a black stroke. All right. And that just allows you to see the interior of your letter forms. You'll want to make it a black fill with no stroke when you're done, but while you're drawing, this is a good way to do it. So you just click once, come down, click again, and just kind of trace that. Now you can, if you click and drag, you're going to get these little arms that dictate the curve of your lines. You can make it curve right along with that. And then click again, curve. And now if you want to stop a curve, like for example, if I come over here and click, it's going to want to continue that curve. So what I want to do is get rid of this second arm to stop that curve. So I hold down Option or Alt, click on that anchor point, gets rid of that second arm, so now I have a straight line again. So I can come over here and click. Like that. Hold down Option, stop that. Come over here and click. Hold down Option. Now this is a fine way to work. It is a little tricky to get those lines really smooth where your points meet up. So however you choose to do this is fine. But just be aware that you might have some cleaning up to do when you're done. So click, click, come up here and click, click and drag out. And Option click there, or Alt click. Click on when you get around to the end of it, you click on your first point and it'll close that path, get it where you want it, and now you have a closed shape here. All right, and then you'll fill it. Now, if I want to do this interior element, I'm going to have to create it as a separate shape. And that's not exactly what I want here, so you might have to do smaller points. Click. And the smart guides will help you line things up, which is nice. Option click, and then come up here and click on that first point. So now these are actually two separate shapes. So now what I can do is delete this background sketch or put it on a separate layer and hide it, however you want to do that. You can see there's some little discrepancies or little areas that aren't quite smooth where my points are. I'll have to clean those up. But now I select this shape, I get rid of the stroke, make it a black fill, and then I select the shape right there. And in this case, I'll get rid of the stroke, make it a white fill, and then select both of those shapes, grab my shape builder tool, Option or Alt, click on that, and it's going to delete it. So now I have my letterform. All right. So that's just if you choose to do most of your work by hand, as opposed to creating the letterform shape by shape in Illustrator. It's totally up to you. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.